Hi, everybody. If people are here, could you let me know if you can hear me all right? Hello. Let's see. Where are my comments? Hello. I was watching somebody on a political candidate in town, and he had a live video, and he made the funniest faces while he was trying to make it work. So I'm very sorry if I make funny faces. So welcome to the Weekly Wild, and it is the second installment on this December 12th of this epic, crazy year that we are calling. Are we calling it the end of the pandemic? I don't know. I don't know if it is, but yeah. I'm going to try and set up here where I can see comments, because I would really like to see comments. Okay. I think I did it. All right. Dashboard. Comments. Comments. Interactivity. Okay. So, God, I can't see comments, actually. I had this all set up, you guys. Okay. Okay. So, I've been thinking a lot about this entire thing. I am broadcasting from my house, my home, today, so that, if it snows ever in Colorado, that and I get stuck somewhere, that I don't miss this time with you and with myself and with everybody who ever watches this. I hope to be doing this for a very long time, no matter where I am in the world or in time, and so I really hope that you'll join me. God, it's really bugging me that... Oh, there we go. Yay! Okay. All right. And so, now I can only see myself. This is a really, maybe this is a rough patch, but I'm just going to keep going. And actually, I'm going to turn on Messenger so that if somebody is here and doesn't see me or something's weird, just let me know, okay? All right. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do, like I said, I've been thinking a lot about what this is and why I'm here. And last week I told you that I got some very clear inner direction and kind of a vector a couple of months ago that I just need to open my mouth and talk and share and trust to the synergy that happens when, like, I think, when you think out loud with your voice. I once read that it takes 6 steps to go from your brain to writing something down. And it only takes 2 steps to go from your brain to speaking something, which explains, gossip and all those kinds of things. But we'll talk about gossip another time. I don't think it's as bad as everybody says. Maybe. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But today, I just wanted to kind of have a little bit more structure with this, and so I made my plan. I have notes, and we're just going to start with what I would consider like an invocation, kind of. If we want to call this church, that's fine. It's by the Church of Wild. But I don't know. I think it doesn't serve us to necessarily call this just church. Maybe a gathering, maybe just a meetup and a connecting. And I hope that that's enough. So, I'm going to look here. Okay. Literally, I don't know where my comments went. So, hang on. Let's see. I'm just going to see. Okay. All right. I'll keep trying to figure out comments. But I am going to pose a question. Okay. I'm going to write a question for you guys after the invocation. Okay. Let's do that first. So I'm going to read from this book. Got it a long time ago. Earth Prayers from Around the World. 365 prayers, poems, and invocations for honoring the earth. And, you know, we're part of it, and so I can honor this. This is a Hawaiian prayer. May the earth continue to live. May the heavens above continue to live. May the rains continue to dampen the land. May the wet forests continue to grow. Then the flowers shall bloom, and we people shall live again. So that's today. The second thing that I want to do is just kind of shout out rest in peace to and empathy to all of the people in Kentucky and Tennessee and the surrounding states that are enduring the devastation from the line of tornadoes this week. You know, we can get into climate change and why it hasn't really snowed here in Colorado. They're saying we had a snow the other day, but there was no measurable snow where I lived, and it's going to be 70 almost this week in December, and it really does seem as though everything is amplifying as far as weather events, whether it's nothing or everything. And I just want to send out love and care to all those people who were impacted by and died in the tornadoes and storms. I've lived in I think 4 tornado alleys in my life, like Upper Ohio, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and West Texas, and it is no fun. It's scary as hell, and I can't even, it's hard to imagine, and going that way. And I just hope we'll all send any care that we can to that area. And then also Anne Rice. I am a scaredy cat, and I can't really read scary books because I ingest them too easily. And so I haven't read Anne Rice's vampire books, but one thing that really impacted me was her struggle and journey with Christianity and her heritage, as well as really intensely and authentically investigating her own faith and her own beliefs, and also how she allowed herself to be public about these things really has impacted me. She's allowed to change her mind, as are you, as am I. And according to how we change inside. And I just always really appreciated that, respected it, honored it, and allowed that to become a place of grace and kindness to myself, even through her example. So rest in peace, Anne Rice. So that's this week. I'm looking at my notes. I told you guys I have notes this week because I didn't want to completely ramble all over you. But, so, this week, and this has to do with the question that I'm going to ask, starting this week as well as successive weeks, I posted a little photo on my Facebook page this morning of the 8 other copies that I have from the first print run of my book, my first book, I should say, The Oat Project. This is a memoir about sowing your wild oats late. I affectionately call it my pre-therapy book now because my dear little thing self, I was so scared. Oh my God. I'm so thankful for therapy and to not be scared like that anymore. But there are lots of fun parts. So I'm doing a giveaway every Sunday on the Weekly Wild to those people who answer a question that I post. And this week, I'm going to do it right now. I'm typing, if you can't tell. I want you to do a copy of my book, The Oat Project. Now, I will send this to anyone all over the world, okay? Whoever, I'm going to do a little drawing, and I want you to tell me about a time when you did a wild thing for a chance to win a book. So at the end of our time today, I will check out who has answered the question, and I will send you a book. And if nobody answers the question, if I'm speaking into the void this morning, that's totally fine. Oh, if you hear scratching, that's my cat, Max. Hey, stop. Shh, shh, shh. Okay. And her scratching thing is right under here, down there. Maybe she'll come and say hi to you guys. Yeah, so comment, answer the question. It can be short, it can be long. Just tell us about a time when you did a wild thing. Sowed a wild oat, which is kind of the point of this book. It is available on Amazon and for sale, and I will post those links as well. So, I also wanted to let you know, let's see, where is it? So I am going to be doing interviews. I'm going to have guests eventually. I'm going to make clips out of some of the stuff that happens here. Gosh, what else? In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be telling a story about Gary Snyder, who, if you know Jack Kerouac and his book, The Dharma Bomb, Gary is the person who is the main character. The main character is based off of Gary Snyder. He's also called the Zen Poet. He's an amazing person, and I had an encounter with him a few years ago, and it has to do with kind of kindness and finding your tribe and generosity. He was generous, and I would love to tell that story. And at the end, like, I'm going to talk about this book as well on that show. And then I'm going to have a favorite book every week that isn't my book. And I'm also going to talk about this book in an episode soon. I mentioned it last week that I love quantum physics. I'm a science nerd. I'm a frustrated scientist. Hey, stop scratching. Sorry for the noise. And I just love everything about it, as far as like data but also how to communicate it and how it applies to our everyday lives. And so this is one of my favorite books ever. The Order of Time by Carlo Revelli, and the audiobook is amazing. Benedict Cumberbatch reads the audiobook, so if you haven't found that on your library site or on Audible, definitely check that out. The book itself is this lovely size, I don't know what size of my head, but it's great to read as well. And I'm going to be talking about kind of how this changed my way of seeing even everyday life and how that might apply in your life and bring more freedom. But this is my favorite book of the week. Let's see. I'll just read it. I'll read some excerpts when I talk about quantum physics. Okay, and then one other thing that I would love to share with you this week, from media, right? We all watch shows and whatever. And I was watching Invasion, this new sci-fi show on Apple TV. And at some point, I don't remember what point in this last show, one said to the other, and it might have been a different show, now that I'm thinking. Hang on a second. I don't know why she's so... Okay, my cat keeps scratching. But they were talking about having no hope. It might have been in Lost in Space. I'm a sci-fi nerd, can't you tell? So, but on something that I watched this last week, I loved the line, someone was exclaiming, "There's no hope." I think it was Lost in Space. "There's no hope." And the response was, hope is the point. Like, survival is not the point. Hope is the point. And I just found that really inspiring and encouraging and thought-provoking. Like, it made me think, we always talk about how love is the point, love is the reason. And yeah, but maybe hope is just as important. Maybe it's just integral to love. But also, what about in a situation where it doesn't seem like there is any love? Maybe there can be hope. Maybe hope is the one thing that we can find that draws us all together. Oh my goodness, my cat is driving me crazy. Okay, here, I'm gonna introduce you so that maybe she'll stop scratching this. Come here. Come here. Yeah, come over here. So this is what you're hearing. Okay. All right. I can't put her like in a room or anything because my house is too little. I'll introduce you in a minute. Okay. So, is anybody... I don't know why it's not showing me the comments today, but I'm not seeing it. I'm still going to keep going, even if you can't hear me. Here, let me look here and see if... Nope. Okay. Okay. So I will also put things in the comments and in the description of this video that link to the Church of Wild YouTube page where these videos are going to be archived. Also, then I'm going to put a link to my new store called the Yoni Flower Collections. It's using my photography, and I make clothing out of my photography. And then my own website. In particular, I've started doing coaching and consulting, and there's a page for that. And coming up is going to be a course that I'm creating right now called based on how to how to integrate the wild into our everyday lives. So you can look forward to that. So my main kind of nugget that I'd like to share with you today is this concept called, and I'm going to write it down so you can see. Called Liwi, or as one of my friends has said, Liwi. Is it Liwi like Wi-Fi or Liwi like Kiwi? I tend to say Liwi like Kiwi. I'm going to shout out to my friend who is also a piano teacher, if you need one, who gave me this mug. Go for it. Okay. So, probably 3 years ago, I was in a therapy appointment, and we were doing EMDR. If you don't know about that, I will post a link about that as well. I'm going to do links, EMDR too. Okay. And it was on some other sort of unrelated topic. And I was facing, sitting across from my therapist. And suddenly, kind of in the moment, I kind of felt, it was an imagination, it was an imagining, but I also could feel it in my body. It was as though I saw a bag, like a satchel, sitting up against the wall behind my therapist, and in that satchel was a thing. It felt like a rock or a physical presence, and in that bag and that thing was that my life was worth itself. And I noticed it, and then I just sort of sidestepped and went back to what we were doing. And then a day or two later, I was here, actually, and I was trying to write my book and get things done and be productive and do all the things that are inside my head and get things going and make money and all the things. And I stopped for lunch, and I was binge watching something at the time, and I thought, hey, while I'm eating, because I'm a slow eater, I thought I'll just watch an episode of the show. So when the episode was over, I kept watching, even though I was done eating. And as I was sitting there, I could feel myself trying to feel guilty about this. Like, to get out the whip and think, you're just so lazy, or you're being undisciplined, or you shouldn't waste time like this. And it was suddenly as though that whip no longer existed. And the things that it felt like, as I tried to process why I wasn't feeling this way, what came up, the words that came up were, well, maybe I just need to rest a little bit longer. Maybe I can trust that impulse. There's the word impulsive, right? The word impulsive means, this is a tangent. Cheers to a tangent. But the word impulsive is viewed in such a negative way in our society, especially in our industrial revolutioned society. I don't agree. I think that learning to trust, but also manage our impulses is a very different thing than demonizing them. So I was just trying to sit with this impulse, and I realized that how it felt, because I was trying to go through the brain steps of stop wasting time, you are an undisciplined person, and all of those guilt-oriented things, I noticed suddenly that it was as though I had been defragged. So do you remember how on your computer you had to defrag your computer every now and then? I think it's all automatic now. But I remember watching my computer defragment, it was taking away all the unuseful stuff. But it also felt kind of like I had had a virus that took away the kind of guilt that I had been feeling and that way of thinking. And I suddenly realized that I had shifted and changed in such a fundamental way. And I thought back to seeing that sort of thing in front of me, and it bloomed. It was like a little atom bomb inside my head so if my life is worth itself, what does that mean? If your life is worth itself, what does that mean? If your life and my life, if our lives are worth themselves, apart from any proof needed, okay? Apart from potential, I call these the 3 P's of proof: potential, production, I'm going to look at my notes and I left them over there, potential, production, and performance. So I call them the 3 P's of proof: potential, production, and performance. If I see a person in a river and I'm the only person around who can save them, I am not going to holler out, "What have you done? How have you lived up to your potential?" before I jump in the river to save him or her or them, whoever, right? We don't ask babies to prove why they deserve to be here. And there is zero difference between babies and random guy on the street. Life is worth itself. We save each other without asking for proof, hopefully. I mean, that's clearly the action of a psychopath. If you require someone to give you proof of their worth before you save them, right? And so this seems really simple, right? But it flips so much. It flips. And hi to everyone. If you have commented, I don't know why I'm not seeing them, but hi, and thank you for joining us. But if our lives are worth themselves, then it changes how we look at accomplishment and excellence and at potential. It changes how we look at what jobs we take. It changes how we make decisions about our own lives, or even how we judge other things and other people's actions and lives. Because, and to be very clear, I'm not talking about like abortion or all of the naughty things around defining things and all of that. I am saying that when life is present, your life, your occurrence, and I mentioned this book before, but I'll be talking about this. He talks about this in this book. The event that you are in space-time is worth itself. You don't need to prove anything to me for me to consider you worthy of life. I would add worthy of love, care, and cherishing, and kindness. And same for myself. And when I was sitting on this very ottoman behind me, trying to give myself grief for not being more productive, instead of trusting my body that I just needed to sit there a few more minutes longer, I was trying to go against this new understanding that in this little vision that I had, this physical sense that I had, it was that life is worth itself is just as real as a pad of paper or a phone. It is as concrete as a book. It is true. It's not just true, okay? We can relegate truth to a thought or a belief or whatever. It is not just true. It is real and concrete, and it exists, that life is worth itself. And I, of course, because I like making acronyms and projects out of everything, and if you ever need anything made into a project, I'm your gal. Life is worth itself. Liwi. I'll die on that hill, but it's liwi like kiwi. Life is worth itself. And I think what I would love for you to take into your week is a sense of exploration and curiosity. And I do this, I'm doing it now, but I also pledge to you to take this more intensely into my week, this week. Where does that change things? If my life is worth itself, then I don't need to be scared that you guys are going to think I'm stupid. It might feel uncomfortable, you know? I like being right. I don't like being wrong. I love finding out when I'm wrong so that I can be right. Right? I admit that. But that doesn't touch. That doesn't touch the core anymore. My life is worth itself. If I never do another thing, and my God, you guys, the list of things that I want to do, even at this point now, from here out, I plan on bending time and getting out as much as I possibly can in this life. And yet, I don't need any proof to show. I don't need to show how I lived up to my potential. I don't need to show what I've made. I don't need to show how productive I am in order to earn my worth. And neither do you. Do I strive for excellence? Hell yeah. Do I strive to get tons of stuff done? Hell yeah. Do I try to do things every day and share things? Hell yeah. But do those things prove my worth? Hell no. My life and your life is worth itself. Period. The annoying driver in front of you, the guy on the side of the road holding a sign asking for money, Elon Musk, all those billion trillionaires, even them, from the lowest to the highest. I don't think that metric works for me, but you know, wherever you are on the spectrum of humanity and existence in this place, it's worth itself, quite apart from any proof. So I hope that you will notice how that changes how you see yourself this week, how you interact with the world and yourself, but also especially in sort of the rubber hits the road situations, like our jobs, how we treat the people in our lives. You know, I have work to do. I have things that I want to align as far as that goes. If fear isn't part of that equation, if feeling unworthy is no longer part of an equation in a relationship, or then how does that change how brave we can be and how caring we can be? I'd love to hear what you think about this and how this impacts your week and your life. So, wee forever, wee forever. Life is worth itself. So this is a process of me learning how to do lives, because I don't know where all of my comments are. If there are any, it's okay if there aren't. It's fine. But if there are, I'm very sorry that I'm not commenting in response to anything you're saying. I'm still looking for answers. I asked a question, so either comment or answer the official question in the event of sharing something a wild oat that you have sown. And I'm going to do a little drawing when I close the live, and I will message whoever. If nobody comments and I have no kind of entrance, then I'm just going to randomly pick somebody who's one of my Facebook friends and send you the book. So hopefully you'll want it. I'm not going to quiz you on having read it. So, Liwi. So, let's see. Yeah. So, at this time, normally, I would look at your comments and comment and talk about any questions you have about what I've said or thought of or ranted about. Maybe my kids will finally build me a soapbox for Christmas. I hope not, but maybe. I'll show it to you if so. I wanted to introduce you to my cat next time. So, I'm at the end, I think, of my little list. And in this kind of pandemic, I've always loved the poem that I'm about to read for you. It just hits me right in the heart when I hear it or read it. And I thought of it 2 years ago on that March day when the whole world shut down. But even as we're all busy now, it feels very apropos for this moment in time. Here in my city, my kids' school district suddenly decided that masks aren't necessary anymore, even though they've helped get our numbers slightly lower, and it drives me nuts. I am a believer. I hate using that word with getting a vaccine, but I did get my vaccine, and I'm going to get the booster next week. And I would encourage, if you're going to be around people, somebody in my family has a heart condition, and it's just a really scary thing if they got this virus. And so I hope that, you'll all do that. But this poem in particular, for me, evokes some sense of where we are in history, in looking, kind of a month away from the third year, a few months away from being in the third year of this thing. And so I hope you enjoy it. One of my favorite poets, Derek Walcott. And I couldn't find my book. This is just, it's an exercise in doing and going for things, even when you don't feel prepared, even when you try. So I wrote the whole thing down, and I'm going to read it to you. This is, again, by Derek Walcott. The season of phantasmal peace. Then all the nations of birds lifted together the huge net of the shadows of this earth, in multitudinous dialects, twittering tongues, stitching and crossing it. They lifted up the shadows of long pines down trackless slopes, the shadows of glass-faced towers down evening streets, the shadow of a frail plant on a city sill, the net rising soundless as night, the birds' cries soundless, until there was no longer dusk, or season, decline, or weather. Only this passage of phantasmal light that not the narrowest shadow dared to sever. And men could not see, looking up, what the wild geese drew, what the ospreys trailed behind them in silvery ropes that flashed in the sunlight. They could not. Oh, so sorry. Yeah. They could not hear battalions of starlings waging peaceful cries, bearing the net higher, covering this world, like the vines of an orchard, or another drawing the trembling, or a mother drawing the trembling gauze over the trembling eyes of a child fluttering to sleep. It was the light that you will see at evening on the side of a hill in yellow October, and no one hearing knew what change had brought into the raven's cawing, the killdeer's screech, the ember-circling chow, such an immense, soundless, and high concern for the fields and cities where the birds belong, except it was their seasonal passing. Love, made seasonless, or, from the high privilege of their birth, something brighter than pity for the wingless ones below them who shared dark holes in windows and in houses. And higher they lifted the net with soundless voices above all change, betrayals of falling suns. And this season lasted one moment, like the pause between dusk and darkness, between fury and peace. But, for such as our earth is now, it lasted long. Derek Walcott, The Season of Phantasmal Peace. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'm not going to hold to a full hour and cram things in and try to dance around and keep us here. But I hope you walk into this week with a sense of leewee, that your life is worth itself. And I'm going to plug in my phone and play some music. And I hope that you will join me in a little dance as we go out. Let me see if I can reach this. Okay. Here we go. Okay. See you next week.